time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth and Will Pelagic. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
And a pleasant good evening to you and yours across the Palmetto State. Will Pelagic, Phil Kornbluth here with you, and this is Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Jared Rogers-Martin on the other side of the glass, and hope you're enjoying yourself on this Wednesday evening here in our Main Street studios in Columbia, and also on the campus of Charleston Southern, where my co-host Phil Kornbluth is residing and taking in the practice of the Buccaneers of Charleston Southern, where I understand they are running under a very extreme heat, Phil.
Indeed, indeed. A hot, humid day here in the Charleston area of South Carolina. Buccaneers just finishing up their practice down below. We're inside the press box at the Buccaneers Stadium, and they have gathered around their head coach, Mark Tucker, taking a knee after a strenuous workout this afternoon in helmets and shoulder pads. They still have a little bit of a wait before they play. This time last year, they were getting ready to head up to North Dakota State. Remember that big showdown early on in the FCS? That was a great game and a great weekend to open up the football season. Now, they're not playing this weekend. Next weekend, they go into SEC country to open up at Mississippi State. The Buccaneers, of course, their coaching staff is practically remade from last year. Jamie Chadwell and Willie Korn went to Coastal Carolina. A couple of coaches went up to Furman. Some other coaches went elsewhere, so Coach Mark Tucker had to practically rebuild his coaching staff from last year, a team that went 7-4, 4-1 in the Big South, and played Wofford in the first round of the FCS playoffs up at Gibbs Stadium and got beat 15-14. So we'll have Coach Tucker with us in hour number 2. We'll also have a couple of the Buccaneer players with us, a couple of captains, linebacker Bobby Ruff, and also offensive lineman Jackson Williamson. We'll have that for you. Now, a reminder, a week from tonight, very excited about this. We're doing something a little different this year. You know, ordinarily we go around all the different schools and do the preseason stuff with them, and we're doing some of that this year. But with several schools, we're going to be doing in-season programs, and that begins next week, which is really going into the season. It's the couple of days before the kickoff. We'll be up in Spartanburg to visit with the Wofford Terriers, and our affiliate up there, WSPG, will be over at the Marriott Hotel. We'll give you more details on that, but we want to invite everybody to come out and join us for that in Spartanburg. We'll be with the Wofford people, head coach Mike Ayers, Mike Young, the basketball coach, Richard Johnson, the AD, and a whole bunch more coming over, and we're just going to have a great time with it. And it's going to be a little different than these the preseason stuff, which is more nuts and bolts about football. We'll talk football with Coach Ayers, but it's also a chance for, in this case, Wofford fans to come out and visit with us. We're going to do the same thing with Furman later in the year, also with the Citadel, and also with Coastal Carolina. We've got some things planned for USC and Clemson as well as we get deeper into the season. So looking forward to that as that begins with us here on Sports Talk next week up in Spartanburg.
We are certainly looking forward to that. And again, more information on our pigskin previews are online at SportsTalkSC.com. The two FBS programs have the day off today as they're getting ready to start their respective school years. USC will actually take the next 2 days off. So today and tomorrow, they will not be on the field. They will have meetings at USC, but no practice or media availability for us. We won't get a chance to talk to Gamecock players until Friday and Saturday. Clemson will be back on the practice field tomorrow, but again, no practice for them today. We did get some news items referring to some USC players as the all-SEC football teams released by the Southeastern Conference coaches. 2 USC players nominated on the first team, tight end Hayden Hurst and linebacker Sky Moore, both named to the respective SEC all-conference teams as put out by the coaches. A pair of third-team honorees in right tackle Zach Bailey and wide receiver / all-purpose man Deebo Samuel named to the third team. Other notables include first-team quarterback Jalen Hurts, running back Darius Geis of LSU. Jake Bentley not selected on this team, Corn, behind, of course, a couple of very big, stout quarterbacks that he has to get past. Fitzgerald out of Mississippi State, Austin Allen out of Arkansas. I have a feeling, though, that with a kind of year that we're expecting out of the South Carolina offense, Mr. Bentley can be vaulting himself into those types of conversations amongst those other three.
Yeah, no question about that. But you're talking about three quarterbacks. Of course, Jalen Hurts, who led his team to the national championship game, and then Fitzgerald, just his numbers last year, rushing and passing, off the charts, and then Allen had such a great year throwing the football at Arkansas. So they all had great numbers. And keep in mind, Bentley only played half a season, so his numbers were cut in half, and he didn't have a heck of a lot of offensive weaponry to work with in terms of experienced players. I would expect his numbers to be a lot better this year, a little more in line with what some of the top quarterbacks in the league will produce this year.
And not only that, but he should have a more balanced attack, too. I was reading a stat earlier today, Corn, that USC was 13th out of 14 in rushing the football last year. I don't know if that necessarily has to do with the stable of running backs. I think it has more to do with the offensive line. And if this offensive line, as we've been hearing from not only new offensive line coach Eric Wolford, but amongst the players who are a year older and some of the newcomers like Dennis Daly, who will be in at left tackle, rotating in, it seems like, with Malik Young. If this offensive line is as revamped as we think it is, I personally think that we could see not only the running back numbers go up, but Bentley's go up as well.
Yeah. You know what? None of that matters. There are three things that matter to South Carolina having a championship-level football team this year. Number one, they've got better videos on Twitter because they brought in somebody who's very good to do that, and they've improved their videos. Number two, they've got a DJ in their stadium this year to spin records and keep things exciting. And number three, announced last night, this is the capper.
I heard this.
This pushes you over the top as far as I'm concerned. They're going to have flamethrowers at the entrance of the players onto the field to 2001. These are the things that matter in today's world of college football and really make you a championship-level program as far as I'm concerned. Blocking, tackling, catching, and running, irrelevant if you've got those other pieces.
It's interesting when we saw that release come out, we thought, man, we're getting to the dog days of camp. If we're talking about pyrotechnics for the patented 2001 A Space Odyssey entrance. And again, it's probably the most iconic entrance in all of college football, but,
Which is? What's the most iconic?
The South Carolina's entrance.
No. You think it's the most iconic entrance in college football?
It's one of the things that I've been looking forward to. Have
you ever been to Clemson?
The Rock? I've seen The Rock. I'm
not talking about The Rock. I mean, that's part of it. The whole shebang at Clemson is.
I just love that song. I love that song.
The song is great. It's a nice entrance, and you know what? An entrance is made by how good your team is. Entrances are excited when your team is 6-0, 7-0, and winning games and playing for a championship. That's when an entrance has a lot of enthusiasm. When you're 2-4, and your coaches quit on you, and you're left for dead, I promise you this, it ain't a very exciting entrance.
I'm wondering how the fans think. 800-956-7266.
Well, you know how they're going to think. Gamecock fans are going to say, I'm an idiot and you're a genius. And Clemson fans are going to say, I'm a genius.
Who has the more iconic entrance? Clemson
they
or
say
USC?
that anyway.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's you can't beat Clemson's. I mean, Clemson's was not something that was created in a boardroom somewhere and sitting around talking about how can we have a great entrance. I mean, it happened. It came about by happenstance.
I know.
They used to dress across the street, and the shortest way to the field was to come down the hill.
I do like the pyrotechnics, though, instead of the fire extinguishers, because we need the fire extinguishers for the good things. We just need the pyrotechnics to make things happen.
I never thought they did a real good job with the fire extinguishers because you could see the players through the smoke. If you're going to do the smoke, then it's got to be smoky enough where you can't see them and they're coming out in a real fog.
We've got big recruiting news about a half hour from now. A big target from USC will be announcing tomorrow. We'll tell you about that, and we'll also hear for the first time from the two men who were named on the AP All-America defensive line. 2 men out of Clemson. That comes your way next. Corn is at Charleston Southern. Willie P. back in the studio. This is Sports Talk. "19 after 6 on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Willie P., Phil Kornblut in Charleston Southern's campus, basking in the glow of being 1 day closer to the start of the 2017 college football season. We'll hear from the folks at Charleston Southern after 7, not only the coaches, but also the players. Those will be principal part of the Buccaneers opening part of the season. We're going to talk some Clemson. We'll talk some USC as well today, and also a little bit about the big fight coming up this weekend between Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. If you have interest in that. 800-956-7266. Get us on Twitter, as also at Sports Talk SC on our social media. You can also find us on Google with the Google Hangouts as well. Just go to sportstalksc.com and find the live stream to our show, which airs right on the YouTube link. Stephen in Charleston is on with us on Sports Talk as we were talking about the most iconic entrances in all of college football. We think the state of South Carolina has two of the best. Stephen, where is your passion lie as far as the entrances?
No. You said South Carolina's was the most iconic. You didn't say one of. You said the.
Well, I said both of the South Carolina schools.
Both. You're dancing on me a little bit.
I'm not dancing on you. I think South Carolina's is a tad better than Clemson, but I'm sure Stephen in Charleston has his thoughts.
I think he's backtracking here. I think I definitely heard him indicate that he thought it was the best there.
I think it is. I think it is.
I could tell you. I actually went to USC, but I'm a diehard Clemson fan.
How's that work, Stephen? How's that work? You're jockeying back and forth.
Hey, never that, man. I'm born and raised a Clemson fan, and they hated me every day of the day I was a student there. So, but I went to. I've probably been to 15 Carolina games and probably 15 or 20 Clemson games. Both. And I would just say, I just think, especially now with the buses and, everything else on top of, the Tiger Walk, everything, it's definitely better on there. And to be called best in the country, it's a kind of a big statement there because I think Clemson's honestly it's the best in the country. But, I mean, even you're looking at running through the T and, the Andrew Sandman with Virginia Tech, you look at Miami running through the smoke. You look at all these other ones. I mean, I don't even think, honestly, it's in the top 3 or 4, but hey, maybe I'm just biased.
Interesting.
Well, there's a lot of very good entrances in college football. If we want to talk about this, the thing in Oklahoma, the Buffalo running crazy,
the Sooner Schooner,
in Colorado, and LSU has a great entrance in that you got 100-something thousand fans, and they come out of the tunnel there right at the goalpost. They have the old-fashioned goalpost.
LSU is only cool if the tiger itself, the live tiger, is involved. That's the only way that one is cool.
Yeah. So anyway,
if you can bring out the guy with the cage.
Getting back to the ones here in our state that we're talking about here. I mean, for me, as an observer, having been at hundreds of games at both of them over the years, the Clemson entrance has always captured my attention. Simply because of the natural nature of it, especially now if you are watching on television and it's a night game, and the TV people now love this to pick up the buses coming away from the locker room and going around the stadium. But again, that is only part of how your team is doing. When Clemson was not a national championship contender, when they were going through the struggles of Tommy Bowden in the latter years, you didn't have the fans lining up outside the stadium in mass to touch the buses and root the players around because the excitement level wasn't there. It is there now because the team is one of the best in the country. When South Carolina was winning 11 games in a row, 11 games a year for 3 years in a row under Spurrier, the entrance and the excitement level by the fans because of the success of the team was off the charts.
See, that's when I remember it the most when Spurrier was here. And I remember watching, some of the Spurrier years on television and seeing that entrance, from afar. And that's the one thing, again, thinking about these two schools. And again, a lot of it, like you said, has to do with the fact that we're talking about the success level of the teams on the field can certainly add to a lot of the pregame pomp and circumstance. But in my mind, the 2001 entrance for me, I just always kind of got chills, especially, thinking back to those Spurrier years and even thinking back to those days that preceded it, just about the fact that this was something that I thought would be really cool to come out on, especially for a night game, especially at USC.
Yeah, I mean, look, a night game when they're going well and the place is packed, it's
when everybody's
an
all
uplifting experience, no doubt about it. But for my money, it doesn't top Clemson's.
Helps to have those fans fully, lubricated for that night contest. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. We'll get into more of your calls as well as we go throughout the 2 hours we have with you here on Sports Talk. Yesterday, we found out that a couple of AP All-America honors for 2 defensive linemen from Clemson, Christian Wilkins and Dexter Lawrence, both involved in the naming there. They had a chance to talk to the media following yesterday's practice and talked about their relationship.
Dex is my guy. That's my little brother for real. I come from a big family, and I'm the baby, so it's nice to have, a lot of younger brothers on the team, but me and Dex are definitely real close, It's really like a big brother, little brother relationship. Just got a lot of love for the guy. Just really push each other on the field each and every day. But it's also that big brother, little brother relationship to where it's like, you're never gonna let the little brother beat you, but you could kind of see the little brother getting better and better, and you're like, oh shoot, you're getting scared a little bit, a little nervous, but he'll still never beat me in anything. So
Dex, the other day, Pat Godfrey looked at Christian. He said, "You're my guy." Another player said, "That's my guy." What is it about Christian that other players just gravitate toward him? They all consider him to be that good friend.
It's just his attitude every day. I mean, how can you not love him, really? I mean, every day he come out with positive attitude. You never see him down. He always looking to work harder, like keep working, do extra work. I mean, and he respects everyone. That's the biggest thing. He don't treat no one differently. I mean, no matter from the last walk-on on the team to the top guy on the team, he treats everyone the same with respect and caring and loving.
But what is it in your personality that you reach out to walk on scholarship players and try to be there for them?
Well, because I know at the end of the day, just because whether you're a scholarship guy, no matter who you are, people are people, and these are my brothers. These are the guys I spend the most time with, and I just, I don't know what anybody's going through all the time, so I just always try to be someone who's positive, show a lot of love, show them that I care, and just be a friend to everyone. That's just, that's just my personality, I guess. Just, that's my mindset. Just try to show everyone love, be there for anyone.
Does it make it more fun though when you have somebody like Dex that you can pick on and have that big brother?
There ain't no picking going on.
No, it's a lot of but no, it definitely does. It definitely does. He takes it well too, and it's all in good fun. It's just how our relationship is.
First team AP All-American Dexter Lawrence, second team AP All-American Christian Wilkins. Corn, you had issue with the order there with those two. You think they should have been reversed?
Yeah, I mean, I think Christian Wilkins, a 2-year player going into his 3rd year, started out as a freshman All-American as a defensive tackle, moved out to end last year, proved his versatility and his talent out there, earned some All-American honors as that. And I don't know how you leave him off a first-team All-American team just based on the fact that he can play end, he can play tackle, he can come in and help you in your Rhino package on offense. He's just a disruptive, talented force. I know that Dexter Lawrence is a big, powerful, strong man and very hard to block. But I've seen more out of Christian Wilkins overall in the 2 years. I would have put him, if I had a vote and it came down to that, I would have put him on the first team, maybe put both of them on the first team if you could have.
Interesting. 800-956-7266. Real quick, we wanted a counter to the Clemson entrance. Hank in Columbia has a Gamecock counter. Hank, real quick.
Yeah, I was calling adding the fire to the entrance. I don't think I think it's an enhancer because you're keeping everything same from the entrance. You're just adding the flame, and I think that will kind of enhance it and add to the excitement of it. I don't think it takes away from it at all. I think it'll just make it even that much bigger, just like when they started doing the revealing of Cocky out of the little carrier thing.
But Hank, is it better than Clemson's entrance?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's better. I mean, come on, that's not even a question. Clemson has a great interest, but I feel like the 2001 with the buildup of that. So
thank you, Hank.
Yeah. I think the Flames will be worth at least 2 wins a year. I think the DJ will get them another couple of wins, and then of course the videos will certainly pay off with a couple of more wins. So they're at 6 wins right there before they even talk about the opponent.
Don't forget about the 802 tanks that are going to have all the steam. We'll hear from USC tight end Jacob August next on Sports Talk.
Me and Dexter.
634. Thank you so much for doing yourself a solid and listening to Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Will Polancic, Phil Kornbluth, producer Jared Rogers-Martin. You can follow us on Twitter at SportsTalkSC, like Tombstone Josh is doing. He is driving past where Phil is currently situated outside Buccaneer Field on Highway 78. Also took the time to tell us, in reference to our talk about entrances between Clemson and USC, that he thinks the Clemson bus ride thing is really lame. So there you go. There's one on my side.
He's obviously a Gamecock fan if he thinks it's lame.
So now that you've had an evening to think about it, because you were definitely shook yesterday when we found out the news about the Kyrie Irving trade to your beloved Celtics, and the fact that Celtics fans now are burning the jersey of Isaiah Thomas in the blockbuster deal that we saw yesterday go down in the association. What are your refined thoughts about receiving the former Duke player for half a season?
Well, I think that Danny Ainge must have just realized that that team that he had put together through last year had gone as far as it could go, and because he's definitely made just about a complete makeover of the roster, and he has jettisoned some very good players and made a number of different deals, and Avery Bradley's gone and for one, and Olynyk is gone for another, and then, of course, the trade yesterday sent two more players walking. And but, it's hard to argue that Kyrie Irving is not one of the top 10 players in the league, right? I think everybody would agree that he is one of the top 10 players in the league, and among guards, among shooting guards, number one, number two, or point guards. I guess maybe he's more of a scoring point, maybe one, well, maybe two behind Russell Westbrook, 2 or 3. He's very, very, very good. And he's got a bigger body. He's 6 years younger than – look, I loved Isaiah Thomas as a Celtic fan. I mean, the guy gave you everything he had. He's 30 years old. He's got a bad hip. I think the hip injury played a little bit of a role, maybe a major role in this decision to deal him.
And the height thing, too, gets you as well.
I beg your pardon?
The height thing with Thomas, too.
Exactly, especially in the playoffs when things get boiled down to possession, and good teams take advantage of that. You get a little bit a bigger body. I'm not sure he's a terrific defender, but you get a bigger body and a younger body in Irving. So, and the Celtics, even though they gave up the unprotected pick of the Nets that they owned, they do have the Lakers first-round draft pick in 2018, and if the Lakers are the Lakers that we've all come to love, that'll be a very high pick as well. So maybe not such a bad thing there after all. I still say that if they're going to get past Cleveland and Golden State, if you're talking about the Celtics being at that level, they've got to get better protection around the rim and rebounding, because Trent Thompson beat them to death in the Eastern Conference Finals. They could not keep him off the glass, and if Trent Thompson can beat you to death, and you got real problems. So they still have to address that, I think.
As South Carolina's best Boston Celtics beat pundit, we have a question from the audience. John in Rock Hill wants to know your thoughts. We want to know his thoughts, and I'm sure he wants to know yours, Corn. Go ahead, John.
Yes. I just think, as a Celtics fan, like Phil said, you had to give up a player like of Isaiah's, caliber. And I mean, as a Celtics fan like Phil, Isaiah, seeing him play on a nightly basis, it was just, he gave you everything he had. But, I honestly didn't have a problem with trading maybe 3 of the 4. The pick, Zizic was Crowder was good, but he only averaged about 14 a game. And I mean, the only down was trading Isaiah, but I just think anytime you get a player like Kyrie Irving and put him in the green and white, he can. I think this actually puts us in. Maybe this is just me. I think this puts us second as the second best team in the NBA, obviously behind the Golden State Warriors. And
John, would you have made the same deal for Paul George? My question to you.
Trade what?
Would you have sent that same package of players to Indiana for Paul George, knowing you'd get Gordon Hayward?
I think I found out that we offered Indiana a better package. I can forget what the package was, but it was a way better deal than what they got from Oklahoma City. So it wasn't like we were willing to give stuff up for Paul George, because Oklahoma City went the cheaper route and they went the wrong deal. So we wanted Paul George, but Indiana didn't want it, and they went with another deal, which I honestly
But
think
you
is a
also
bad
have
deal.
to remember there, too. I mean, that might just be rent a player for a year because he's a free agent. And, you know, a lot of talk about him ending up in L.A. after next season. And I think that's one of the things I don't know if Celtics had reached a point with that situation that they did not think they could sign him to a long-term contract, and they weren't interested in a one-year rent-a-player sort of situation with a player of that caliber.
It's interesting. It's all hindsight is 2020, but we'll certainly see the way it develops over the course of the NBA season. Both USC and Clemson not practicing today. USC had its open practice on Monday. One of the observations I had from being there is the fact that it kind of harkens back to what Will Muschamp had talked about in our Saturday visit with him, the fact that while there is a lot of wide receiver depth, an overlooked part of that depth involves the tight end position. A lot of the tight ends, like first-team All-SEC Aiden Hurst and Casey Crosby, are being used as flexes out in the slot, which allows a guy like Jacob August to be a wing and an extra blocker on the offensive line to help that 13th out of 14 running game last year. We spoke with Jacob August earlier last week in practice.
We're going to be really good this year. Yeah, I think we're going to be – defense looks good, their offense looks good, their special team looks good too. I think that the only thing holding us back, if anything does hold us back, is ourselves. So if we can figure that out, which we're getting along doing, we'll be a really good team this year.
How much did Kurt open up the playbook during the scrimmage? Was it all then, or did he keep you?
It was a little bit limited because he didn't want to give everything away to the defense because we still have to go against them every day. But I mean, he's still trying to figure out what he wants to do with our offense.
How do you all manage that balance as far as, sometimes the defense kind of will know what you're doing just because they see you so often, but you also want to at least get your work in?
In football, it's like that everywhere. They can see what we're doing by the sets we start in, so they get quick line, which forces us to get quicker and quicker off the line and seeing what their pre-play is. So like if they have a safety over top of someone, you have to know someone slant inside. So that really helps us manage the game better.
When I was parking, I heard them using the sound machine. How much does that help you guys kind of prepare for road games?
We do that in practice a lot in those situations, in those situational moments.
You and the other tight ends deal with Coach Wolf on the offensive line.
We calibrate with him. We're doing the same thing as them on some plays, so everyone has to be on the same page.
Jacob August from USC practice, and interestingly enough, Corn, so much of what we've talked about from the wide receiver position involves a lot of the young guys. We haven't seen Randrigus Davis a lot because of injury so far in camp, wondering if his injury has kept him at least out of the initial rotation, but we've seen a lot of Shi Smith, we've seen a lot of Ortre Smith, but these tight ends stepping up could at least curb a little bit of the playing time from some of those freshmen.
Well, for sure. I mean, they have a very loaded room at tight end when you're talking about Hayden Hurst and Casey Crosby and Jacob August, Keel Pollard, Evan Henson, and there's one
Kyle Markway.
Kyle Markway. Thank you for getting him. They are loaded at tight end, and you got to find a way, especially when it comes to Hurst and to Crosby. Got to find a way to get the ball in their hands because they're both very good with the football in their hands afterwards. Pollard was a big offensive big offensive player in high school, produced a lot of yards at his high school, and he's a lot bigger player than I thought that he was coming out of high school, not having seen him play in high school. And he is a guy that if you can get him involved as well, could be a boost to your offense. And then Evan Henson is a tremendous athlete. We saw him on the basketball court some for Frank Martin's team, and he's a nice tall target as well. They have got some talent there at tight end to mix in with what they're doing at wide receiver. So they have much more to work with in terms of talent and overall weapons on the offense this year. That's why I think they're going to be an offense that averages 30, 35 points per game. I will be shocked if they're not in that category as the season progresses.
Believe the same. Looking forward towards recruiting, we have two big commitments expected to make their announcements tomorrow. Who and where? You'll find out next. Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network continues next.
Sarah is confident.
Up the middle, Segura smothers and throws behind the runner. Now Albie's in a rundown between third and the plate. Ball dropped. Now Ozzy's going to come home. The throw to the plate. Late! It all worked out. Now you've got two runners stuck in the middle of the diamond, and Ender's going to wait and see where they run down. Total chaos on the base paths, and finally Seattle tags out Blaine Adams.
Welcome back in Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornblut here at Charleston Southern, where the Buccaneers field up in the press box a little bit after 7 o'clock. We'll be joined by the Bucs as we talk with them about their practice to this point. Coach Mark Tucker, who had been the quarterback's coach here, is now the head coach, of course, following Jamie Chadwell, who moved over to Coastal Carolina as an assistant coach, but is now the interim head coach at Coastal Carolina. We'll hear from Coach Chadwell on Sports Talk tomorrow night. A couple of Bucs players coming by to visit as well. Also, we're going to hear from the Buccaneers assistant head basketball coach, Ahmad Smith, and assistant AD for development, Tyler Davis, in our next hour. Also, a reminder that a week from tonight, we'll be in Spartanburg as we begin our Sports Talk Pigskin Preview Live Tour. We invite everybody to come over to the Marriott Hotel right next to the Wofford campus. I mean, it's like, 200 yards or so right next to it. The beautiful Marriott Hotel in downtown Spartanburg. Going to be at Mesh the Terrace inside the Spartanburg Marriott, 229 North Church Streets. And going to have a little, this is something different that we're doing in conjunction with our affiliate, WSPG in Spartanburg, and also with the Terriers, and we'll do with some other teams and affiliates around the state this year. A chance for you to come over and visit with us and support your favorite team that's not named USC or Clemson with us on Sports Talk. We'll also be at Furman, and we'll be at Newberry later in the year, the Citadel. Coastal Carolina will be involved with us as well. Plus, we'll do something later on with USC and Clemson, too. So put that down on your calendar for a week from tonight. Mesh the Terrace restaurant inside of the Spartanburg Marriott will be there. It's going to be a big game. It's Wofford and Furman, oldest rivalry in the South, even older than Georgia and Auburn. And these two teams do not like each other. You got Wofford ranked to win the Southern Conference this year. You got Furman with new head coach Clay Hendricks and big rivalry game there to open up play in the Southern Conference.
Terriers versus Paladins getting it in early on this year.
And which one has the better entrance, do you think?
You know, I happen to like Furman's entrance better than I like Wofford's, just because.
Yeah, why is that?
Because I like the purple. Big fan of the purple.
They do have a horse.
Exactly.
They do have a horse.
And the thing about Furman is, I mean, they've got that very nice facility where the Falcons used to train. I've been up to Furman a couple of times. I like the facility. Very nice facility. But I know that you and I are supposed to see some of the new basketball stuff as well at Wofford. So we're looking very forward to that as well.
And Furman does have a hill that it runs down too. It's not, a big hill, but they do have a little small hill that comes out of their locker facility. All right, to recruiting now. As you alluded to earlier, defensive back J.C. Horn of Alpharetta, Georgia, has made plans to announce his college decision tomorrow. He's going to do it via SEC Country. SEC Country trying to gobble up all the exclusive announcements of these players in Georgia now. They've also started working with the big offensive lineman out of Pace Academy in Atlanta, Jamari Sawyer, which is interesting. They're doing I think it's a weekly video thing with him, and it's their Georgia writer who is doing it. Of course, Georgia's heavily involved with him, but Clemson's trying to get him. So we'll see how that works out. But going back to this with J.C. Horn, it's USC, Alabama, and Tennessee. It was mostly USC and Alabama, and then Tennessee got involved after the other two and has made it a three-way battle. I don't know where he's going to end up. We shall see. I've talked to him a few times. It's kind of similar to what Josh Vann went through, back and forth for Vann between USC and Georgia. He ended up picking USC, and JC has gone back and forth between those three. Of course, his dad, Joe Horn, was a standout at Ole Miss and with the Saints, was he not?
Yes, New Orleans Saints, and very famous for using his own name, talking about himself in the third person. I wonder if JC will continue that tradition.
I don't know. He's never talked to me in third person.
I mean, let me put you this way. This would be another solid get for Will Muschamp because, again, we're starting to see some of these guys who he couldn't get in his first couple recruiting classes going up against some of the big dogs, like Tennessee and Alabama. And again, I know that Alabama probably isn't in the deep running for this particular commitment, but you go toe-to-toe with Tennessee and get this guy, that starts to become a little bit of a waterfall for him.
Well, sure. I mean, if you win a recruiting battle that includes finalists like Alabama and Tennessee for a player, then obviously he's a player that's highly coveted by other successful programs, and that's a boost for your team. He's the kind of a corner that if you have him on one side in the future, you pair him with a Jemias Williams on the other side. South Carolina would figure to have a couple of nasty corners there if they get him. They're
losing a couple of big seniors too. I mean, you lose Jamarcus King, you lose Rashad Fenton. Not Rashad Fenton, DJ Smith. I mean, there are a lot of guys on that secondary who aren't going to be there next year, and he could be part of that fold.
Also tomorrow, running back Asa Martin of Decatur, Alabama, is going to announce his decision. Clemson, Alabama, and Auburn are his finalists, and we'll see. Clemson. They missed on the guy they wanted at running back, and they've offered a few other guys. This is one of the guys they've offered who has not committed anywhere else yet. And even when he commits, though, he last told us that he will take his other visits. So even if he commits to Alabama, Auburn, he will still visit Clemson at some point. And if he commits to Clemson, he'll still visit Alabama and Auburn. Some other notes, defensive end Trajan Jeffcoat of Irmo said he had a stunning game last Friday night, including a scoop and score and a pair of sacks. His words, stunning game. He's going to visit Missouri September 23rd. And he also plans to take officials to Colorado State and Indiana. He camped at USC this summer. He's not hearing anything from the Gamecocks at this point. Missouri. So you need to get over there as a Missouri alum and make sure that gets done.
I have no input nor any desire in being a part of the University of Missouri's recruiting efforts. Although I will tell him, try the CJ's wings, avoid the barbecue. That's all I'll say.
Good move. Defensive lineman Torian Stevenson of Branchville said he has a top three of the Citadel, Troy, and North Carolina A&T. All three have offered. Plans to visit the Citadel in September. Currently favors the Citadel. Not hearing much from USC or Clemson. Quarterback Kavaris Thomas of Lakeland, Florida, opened his season passing for 279 yards, 3 touchdowns, and rushing 17 yards for another score. He camped at USC in June, hoping for an offer from the Gamecocks. That hasn't happened yet. He says they've told him they're holding off on offering because they need more defensive players. But he said they've told him he's still at the top of the quarterback list. Of course, they already have one quarterback committed. He's not heard from USC since late July. Right now, FIU is the primary school he's hearing from that has offered. Defensive back Jermaine McMillan of Miami camped at USC this summer. He's not hearing much from the Gamecocks since camp. He has heard from South Florida, Ole Miss, and Virginia Tech. He still plans to visit USC, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and South Florida for officials. Quarterback Cordell Littlejohn of Roswell, Georgia, says he talks here and there with USC, but the contacts have dropped off some since the Gamecocks received the commitment from DeCarrion Joyner. He said quarterbacks coach Kurt Roper said he wants to see some senior film. He is talking with Louisville, Illinois, and Old Dominion. Plans to take an unofficial visit to Old Dominion. Clemson offered 2019 defensive back Jalen Simpson of St. Simons Island, Georgia. In basketball, 6'3" Trey Dooms of Alpharetta, Georgia. He's got to have one of the best names in college basketball.
Dooms.
Trey Dooms. He's got a Clemson offer, and he's still hearing from the Tigers. He said they're still evaluating him as a guard. He has an official with Middle Tennessee State set for Labor Day weekend. 2019 6'2" Deuce Dean. One of the best first names.
Hope he can bring some of the Dooms to oppositions in the ACC if he goes to Clemson. Some of the Dooms.
6'2" Deuce Dean of York Prep. Not hearing much now from Clemson or USC. Oklahoma State and Virginia Tech, he said, are showing the most interest. He plans to visit Florida September 16th and Virginia Tech on September 30th.
That's recruiting.
All right, we're approaching the top of the hour break, and keep in mind if you lose us for whatever reason at the top of the hour or any time, you can stay with us on our website, SportsTalkSC.com. Also, the TuneIn app. Many of our stations, I recommend our Columbia station, The Point, because they never leave us. We'll be back at the folks from Charleston Southern, the Bucks, joining us here on Sports Talk. Let's see what I want to mention here. All right. Coming down in 3, 2, 1. Two big commitment announcements coming up today. Defensive back J.C. Horn of Alpharetta, Georgia. He's down to USC, Alabama, and Tennessee. And running back Asa Martin of Decatur, Alabama. He'll announce for either Clemson, Alabama, and Auburn. Defensive end Trajan Jeffcoat of Irmo has an official visit set with Missouri for September 23rd. He currently favors the Tigers. He also plans officials to Colorado State and Indiana. Defensive lineman Torian Stevenson of Branchville has a top 3 of the Citadel, Troy, and North Carolina A&T. Clemson offered 2019 defensive back Jalen Simpson of St. Simon's Island, Georgia. Phil Kornblut, South Carolina, Radio Network Sports.
It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornblut and Will Pelagic. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Second hour of the program, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Will Pelagic, Phil Kornbluth, Jared Rogers-Martin. Hope you're enjoying yourself on this Wednesday evening as we're closer and closer to the start of the football season. Willie P. here in our network studios on Main Street in Columbia. We head back out to Buccaneer Field and join Phil Kornbluth, who is with the head coach of the Charleston Southern Buccaneers.
Indeed, I am. Coach Mark Tucker is the head coach of the Charleston Southern Buccaneers. He's not a stranger to these parts. 4 years, the quarterback's coach under Jamie Chadwell and helping to run a very potent, a very effective offense. And now he is the head coach when Coach Chadwell moves on to Coastal Carolina. How are you, sir? Good to see you.
I'm fine, Phil. Thank you for having me.
What a kind of a strange turn of events here. Did you see that coming a few months ago?
In regards to being named head football coach?
Exactly.
Well, Jamie had been approached by a couple of programs a year before, and we had started down this path, and I'd had some discussions with Coach Small, his request about the job then, and Jamie was very supportive and felt like this would be a good fit. He knows my love for Charleston. Going through my history and the things that have happened to me and my family, he knew that I would leave our home in Tennessee for him and for Charleston, South Carolina. I grew up here as a young boy. My father was a career officer, was an F-4 fighter pilot, and served 3 tours in Nam, stationed out of Charleston. And then all the years I was at the Citadel. Collectively, I've lived longer in Charleston than anywhere. My children actually call Charleston home.
Sure. How has the well, I guess transition is not even a useful term here because you were here and you helped to develop the offense. Now, I know you had to practically rebuild your assistant coaching staff, so I guess maybe some transition from that standpoint?
Yeah, it's hard. We had a great deal of familiarity on the offensive side of the ball, but with success comes opportunity. And Gabe Gardenia, who was our offensive line coach and was the offensive coordinator, had an opportunity late in the spring to become a head football coach at Albany State. And Coach Newland Isaac, our running back coach, he actually played here. And we had all been together for the 4 years. He had an opportunity to be an offense coordinator. So along with our entire defensive staff, all left for positions that they felt were better for their families. 2 of them, Rod Wilson is with the Kansas City Chiefs, and Sky McGee is at Georgia State, both Division I opportunities. And Coach Staggs is at Furman along with Coach Miller. So it's we're a Christian university. We're all men of God, Christ-centered, and this is an opportunity for me to bring on my dearest friend walking the planet, and Zane Vance. We played together in college. He led me to Christ. We've coached together very early in our careers, and we've been talking about the opportunity to do this again for the better part of 30 years. And I've been blessed with Mike Adams and Bryant Foster, as well as Zane, to just head the program up, and Josh Cooper, young defensive line coach that we feel very, very good about. We've got good teachers and good mentors and good men. Mm-hmm. And offensively, with Gabe leaving and Newland leaving for Albany State, that left some vacancies, one for an offensive line coach, and I reconnect with a guy that I actually coach with at the Citadel that's very close to me in age, only a couple of years younger, and Ron Hudson. And I'm really excited, and we were fortunate to get a young intern at NC State for Chuck Amato and Tom O'Brien. And Division I looks like a Division I, or at least a former Division I offensive lineman. Uh-huh. But we've got 2 guys that are on the same page and are working our group. And Mike DiNolizzi, when that transition happened, came in. And then we lost an assistant late to an opportunity, and we had to add some late transition. So we've been working it hard, doing a few different things, and doing it on the run. But we're in very good shape. We really are.
Offensively, of course, you got your quarterbacks back basically. Shane Busnell set to be back as your starting quarterback. But you lose Darius Hammond, who was a big offensive spark for you, both in terms of the rushing game, receiving game, return game. Have you been able to satisfactorily find somebody who can pick up where he left off?
Well, that's a very, very talented young man, and as well as Mike Holloway, school's all-time leading rusher.
Yeah.
And between Darius Hammond, Mike Holloway, and Robinson graduates over 5,600 yards of total offense, over 56 touchdowns. And Darius Hammond, there's more hidden yardage out there in regards to the return game than any. I don't even want to go look it up because it would depress me. Now, to say that we can equal that stretch, we have some very talented returners. We'll know when it all gets kicked off and live and in color like everybody else will. But Darius has definitely created a measuring stick. And Mike Holloway led the entire nation in FCS until the last ball game of the year in yards per carry. I mean, every time he averaged over 9 yards a carry throughout an entire season. So
why didn't you just give it to him every play?
Well,
I mean, that's a first down every second play.
Darius needed it too. It's a great deal of production. Our quarterback situation is very good. Between Shane, who is really ready to take the next step, and a young man that just works his rear end off. He is a film rat. He is a guy that is going to condition and prepare himself mentally and physically as well as anybody on the field for us. A very talented young man who came in the same class that Shane did, London Johnson. Now, I was blessed to recruit Shane as a recruited walk-on who earned a scholarship, but London was the one that I chose.
Yeah.
And he can flat go. London had grown up and not really been accustomed to having to work very hard because of just the pure talent level. And he understands now. And we're very blessed to have that. And then Robert Mitchell is an unbelievably gifted athlete. He's growing. He's just run out of time. But we've had 3 guys play meaningful snaps in meaningful games, and I've said that often, but it's true. So we're very good there. Between Ronnie Harris and Shannon Hamilton, our 2 returning upperclassmen backs, they too have played meaningful snaps in meaningful games. But we'll see. Just like all of us, we'll see.
You won't know until they roll it out there.
Charleston's head coach Mark Tucker joining us here on Sports Talk. What kind of mental toughness did Shane show you being kind of thrust into the fire in there last year?
Mental toughness. I committed all this to prayer. I had an idea. Jamie and I talked often when he was debating on whether or not to go forward with this or not. And I made him a promise, and the same thing that I promise everybody. He said, I'll never tell you what to do. I'll talk this out and basically put questions in front of you that you need to answer yourself. It's not my position to tell you what God's path is for you. But I'll see what lines up and counsel you the best way that I can. I was prepared. I've done this before, just never done a college setting. I've never been responsible for 120-some-odd young men. I think it's more so the things that I've been through in my life and myself and my children with the passing of my first wife. And there's a lot of things that are relative. And you take God's blessings as they come. And, you're either in that place to accept them or you're not. And it wasn't as though didn't feel like I was ready or capable or anything like that. But I dearly love Charleston. I believe in the school's mission. I love these young men. They are a fantastic group. We've recruited very, very well. And this is where I want to be. I loved my time at the Citadel. I did. I loved my time at the Citadel. It's a great place to be when you're winning. It is. It's not a lot of fun when you're not, but it's a great place to be when you're winning. And so is this.
Well, listen, we wish you the best of luck this season. First time out as the head coach here. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. We got a couple of your players coming up here in just a moment. Going to chat with them, and we look forward to talking to you throughout the season. And best of luck.
Thank you, Phil.
Appreciate Coach Mark Tucker, head coach here at Charleston Southern. Back in a moment. Can you hear?
I can.
Yes, sir. You're good? Okay. Pull that mic a little closer to you there. There you go. Yeah, you're good. Okay. Get you. Da. Sports Talk on the road tonight. We are at Charleston Southern University visiting with the Buccaneers, who practiced outside in the heat this afternoon, finishing up about an hour and a half ago. We got a chance to watch them run up and down the field a little bit, getting after it. Hey, it's going to be hot when they go to Starkville, Mississippi, a week from Saturday to open their season up against an SEC opponent. So good luck to the Bucs with that. We welcome in from the Buccaneers, senior offensive lineman Jackson Williamson. He's one of the captains on the team, is out of Macon, Georgia. And linebacker Bobby Ruff, who's also a senior captain out of West Ashley, the son of the former Citadel Hall of Famer linebacker Brian Ruff. Good to see you two guys. And Jackson, how has practice been? Where are you guys in your preparation towards Mississippi State?
Oh, it's been great. We've been getting after it for sure. Coach Tuck, when he came in, he that's one of the things he wanted us to do is he said he wants us to practice. He wants us to practice harder. So when we get to the game, practice will be 10 times harder than the game will ever be. And we've definitely seen it. been a part of it, offensive and defensive side of the ball. But preparation for Mississippi State, we just got into the depth of what they're going to be doing offensively this week. We just started diving into it. They're running a little bit of 3-down stuff, slanting. So, I feel like so far we've got a pretty good game plan to get 2 days in. Coach Tuck's really big on execution and his option offense. But and we got a new O-line coach, Ron Hudson, and he's really just been laying it to us. And awesome dude, and he's definitely making us better.
Bobby, this program has had a great run of success here in recent years. You lose Coach Chadwell to Coastal Carolina. Coach Tucker takes over, a guy that you guys are familiar with. What's the transition? Well, let me rephrase that. What was it like for you guys as players when you lost Coach Chadwell, but they stayed in-house and promoted Coach Tucker?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, you know that we lost our defensive staff too with Coach Staggs and some of his guys going to Furman. So bringing in a new defensive staff with Coach Vance from New Mexico State, he's been a blessing. He's really taken on the same mentality that Staggs has. Nothing's really changed. We're still swarming to the ball, you know, fast, physical, nasty defense. That's what we're trying to be. It's what our mantra is. What are we trying to, you know, establish each and every day on the practice field? So when we carry on into games, it's pretty much the same exact thing. But with Coach Tuck staying in house, you know, that we pretty much knew that was going to be the guy, and he has been exceptional. I mean, it's just he practice harder than, just like Jackson said, practice is going to be harder than the game's ever going to be.
Sure.
And so that makes us as players better prepared than we've been, you know, in the past. And it's interesting to see how it's going to play out.
All right. Will Pelagic has a question for you guys, for Jackson, I believe, from back in Columbia.
Yeah, how are you guys? Jackson, I know that last year, unfortunately, was a bit of a lost year for you, starting the first 2 games and then missing the rest of the year for the season-ending injury. How have you battled back, and what was it like watching on the sideline most of last year, unfortunately?
Yeah, after I got hurt in the bye week, it was rough. I really wanted to play my senior year and get going to where it's going to be next in life. But just coming back from it, I spent a lot of time in the training room with Brad Drake, and he's been getting me right. I haven't had any issues with it this fall camp. So over summer when we were running and stuff, it started bothering me at the beginning. But I think after I just broke through that mental wall of, hey, I'm just going to have to deal with it, things have been easy. It hasn't really, like I said, it hasn't really bothered me. And going back to last year, not getting to go to the Coastal game, not getting to go to all these games and stuff, it kind of sucked. But either way, I was there for my teammates. I was cheering them on from wherever I was, whether I was on the sideline, wherever it be. I was just doing what I could to get my boys hyped up and ready to play, and trying to be a leader for those younger guys on the offensive line, so they can execute and do the things they need to do. And so I think it was a blessing in disguise, kind of. I get to come back and be even like, I got a glimpse of what it's like to be a senior leader last year. So I think getting this opportunity to come back has really just helped me and focus my eyes on, hey, this is what I didn't do last summer as a good leader, or this or that. And it's really helped me to see what I need to improve on and what I've been trying to improve on so far this fall camp and over the summer.
Bobby, growing up in a football family as you did, you know, your dad not only was a great player at the Citadel, he's one of the all-time great linebackers to come out of our state. And I guess it's only natural that you ended up playing linebacker.
Yes, sir.
So what did you learn from him? What did you take from him, his playing skills that maybe we see in you? And why are you not at the Citadel?
It's interesting because my dad and I actually had this conversation the other day. We always talk football, you know. Yeah. It's when I'm at home where I'm always picking his brain on, you know, what to do. And one great piece of advice he's given me is when you're going out and you're playing, your mentality has to be that if I don't make the tackle, then no one else does. And obviously you saw what he did and how he grasped that mentality. And he had 700 and whatever tackles and is the leading tackler at Citadel. And so I've been trying to hone in on that and just be like, if I'm out in the field, I have to make every play. Like that's my mentality. I have to get the ball. And I'm not at the Citadel. Obviously I'm here. So it was a lot different. My brother passed away when I was 12 years old. He committed suicide. And so my brother was at the Citadel. My uncle was at the Citadel. My dad went to the Citadel.
Yeah.
I've had family go all throughout the Citadel. And I was getting recruited by Coach Chadwell and Coach Gardenia that were here at the time. And I wasn't really getting any looks or anything. And I stayed there and just really started to focus on Charleston Southern. I'm like, okay, I'll probably end up here. Got offered. I committed. And then the next day I get offered by a bunch of these schools, and one of them is the Citadel.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was like, hey, Dad, what should I do? And he said, your word is the only thing you have as a man. So once you commit, and you're there. And the Citadel and I have the utmost respect for the Citadel. Nothing against the program at all. I'm very close with a couple of the coaches over there, and I have like 5 friends that are on the team actually, and it's a great program. It's just not where God wanted me to be. Being here has given me the ability to grow as a person, as a player, spiritually, and then we'll see what happens.
Sure.
Bobby, Will back here in Columbia. Phil had mentioned your opening opponent, Mississippi State. It's a tall order to keep Nick Fitzgerald corralled. What have you seen from him on film? What makes him so difficult to defend?
Yeah, when you watch him on film, he's a boat, man. He's all over the place. Obviously his strong suit is running the ball. And they're very unique on offense. They'll go 5 wide and they'll run quarterback draw. And so being able to prepare for someone like that who is very versatile within the pocket is a challenge for a defense. Having a guy who's going to be able to stick on him and he's about every bit of 6'4", 240, 245, so we're going to hit him low and try to keep him in the pocket, try to give the ball to try to make him give the ball to other people and really try to take his playmaking abilities away and try to give it and disperse it without the other team.
He's very elusive.
Oh, he is
very elusive, and he's a threat through the air and with his legs too. So that's going to be a huge challenge for you guys. And of course, the size advantage they're going to have, the depth advantage. But hey, guys, FCS level teams love Jackson going into these places, and who knows, maybe pulling off the big upset.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to go in with a mindset to win. I know for myself, I don't go in any other game. I don't go in any game wanting to lose. I know a lot of guys on this team feel that way, and we've been preached to this camp that we're not going to lose at anything we do. We're going to be winners, and I know we're going to go in this. We're going to go in this game prepared in film sessions, prepared in on the field, off the field, whatever it is. The coaches are getting together a great game plan, and we're going to go in ready to compete, ready to win.
Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate
Yes,
it.
sir.
Thanks, guys.
Best of luck to you. We'll be watching closely in a couple of weeks and throughout the season.
All right,
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. From the Bucks, Bobby Ruff and Jackson Williamson, a couple of fine captains for the Buccaneers. Back in a moment.
7:33 at Sports Talk South Carolina. Will Pelagic here in our Main Street studios in Columbia. Hope you're enjoying yourself today. Both the two FBS football teams of the day off, USC and Clemson both. We'll get back to talking more about them tomorrow as Clemson will retake the practice field Thursday. USC will do so on Friday. Phil Kornblut is right now at Buccaneer Field on the campus of Charleston Southern University. It's never too early to talk a little round ball, Phil.
Absolutely. You know, nothing wrong with working a little basketball along with our football talk, as we're going to do that here at Charleston Southern with associate head coach Ahmad Smith. And we're also joined by the assistant AD for development, Tyler Davis, who's got some interesting information to share with us as well about a couple of things being built here on the campus at CSU. But first of all, Ahmad, good to see you. And how's the offseason been for the Buccaneer basketball squad? I know you're losing B.J. Mackey over to East Tennessee State. Other than that, pretty quiet for you guys?
Yeah, it's pretty quiet. We had a really good summer in July. We had all our guys up, so we were able to, mesh our new guys coming in, our freshmen and our upperclassmen that we had coming back. And so, we had a really good summer, strong summer with our guys. And I think we got a really good group coming back, with our older guys, but our freshmen, we're really excited about that we have coming in.
The team for this year, have you added some good size to it? Where do you think you'll be improved? Where do you think you'll be stronger?
I think we got Javis Howard, who's coming back. That I think he's going to be, phenomenal in the league. He had a really good junior season. Cortez Mitchell came back, and then everybody knows Christian Keeling as a freshman averaged 18 points a game in the league. But I think the guys offhand is Travis McConico. He's a junior college transfer, four-man that can kind of stretch the floor out for us. Some in the years in 2011 where we made our runs of 19 and, the Big South run, we had a four-man that can stretch the floor out, was Matthew Moe and then, Will Saunders. So we really, in our recruiting class, we really look for that position, for somebody to come in that can stretch the floor and just open the floor for everybody else. I think he's going to be a big key. And also our freshman, Fleming, he was a 5A player of the year out of Georgia. I think he's going to be something special, kind of like a Christian Keeling too. So those are the two guys that come to mind right off.
And you also had, during those good years that you had the run there, you had that dynamic point guard.
Yes.
And are you still searching for that guy? Do you think you have that guy in the program now?
I think everybody compares to Sa Nimley because he was really good. But I think Cortez Mitchell can really fit that mold for us at the point guard position. We brought in a freshman, Dede Buskey, who was going to be really good for us too also. But I think you're going to see this year a more well-rounded team. A team that's going to score in a lot of different places, especially because our 5 spot, I think, is out of all the years, I think this is our best 5-man that we had. So we got an inside presence, and I think the outside presence is going to be really good, adding Travis McConico at the 4 spot, and then it opens the floor for. So I think you're going to see a stronger team, and I think if we can be able to go further.
Sure.
Coach Will Pelagic back here in our Columbia studios. I know it hasn't necessarily been released yet, but what, if anything, can you tell us about what you'll be doing with your non-conference schedule?
Right now on the non-conference, we should have that out hopefully in about a week or two. It should be out pretty quick, but I think everything is pretty much good for right now on the non-conference. But once that gets released, we'll put it out to everybody pretty quick. But hopefully in the next week, we should have something out on that.
Going to be traveling a lot of different places. Since you can't give us any specifics, are you going to be traveling?
We'll travel a little bit, but we'll stay closer to home. We've been going out to the West Coast, to Arizona.
Yeah.
We was out at Stanford 1 year. I think we're going to be pretty close, kind of around here for the first time in a long time.
Tyler Davis is with us, the assistant AD for development. So you're doing all this building, and the basketball staff, the coaches, they want a new building too.
Don't we all?
Now, we love the Buck Dome, all right? It's got its place in the country, right?
Absolutely,
the smallest gym in the country for D1.
No doubt about it.
When are the Bucks getting a new dome?
Well, you know, it's one of those things that's on our radar. It's on our 10-year capital plan. But I can promise you this: it's on my plan that whenever we get approval, to move forward, we do have a rendering of the facility.
Beautiful.
And 3,500 seats. It's only a $40 million.
$40 million.
$40 million.
This can be yours for $40 million.
When Phil is ready to put the Phil Kornblue Arena on the campus, we'll be ready to talk. So Phil,
Phil might have to sell his palatial estate there in Charleston to get that one going.
Right. That's I'll have to negotiate with my money people, you know, when it comes to
Absolutely.
that.
We can talk after class.
But what are you building? The things that are actually coming up out of the earth.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I appreciate that. And two facilities really that I want to kind of share with you today. One being the Athletic Performance Center. That is a 8,000 square foot facility, a 5,000 square foot weight room space. We just bought the equipment about a month ago. It's going to be Sorenex equipment, which is out of Columbia. So we're very pleased to have them on board with us. Sam and Angie Kelly gave a tremendous gift of $250,000 for to get that building off the ground. So with a combination of game guarantees, fundraising, it's a $1.3 million building, 8,000 square feet, and it's going to be really a home of football as well in our athletic department. So we're just excited. Right now we're in 2,400 square feet. We're moving to 5,000. You're adding additional 3,000 square foot for football and just meeting space. Ultimately, what am I saying? We're getting bigger and we're getting better.
Certainly.
And then the other project is one that we have been talking about for about a year and a half, 2 years. And the Sharonda Coleman Singleton Baseball Complex, named after Sharonda Singleton, who unfortunately lost her life, I believe June 17th, down in Emmanuel AME Church here in Charleston. And we made a decision as an institution that we are going to build something for her to be able to tell her story. And what a story to tell, the type of woman that she was, the values that she stood by. And we are doing that. It's a $1.9 million baseball complex, home of our baseball program with locker rooms and a Sharonda Coleman Singleton Enrichment Center inside there to really tell her story. I like to tell people it's the living room of the facility.
Sure.
And it's going to be second floor for team meeting spaces and those type of things. And we're just excited. 1.3 million in the bank, 6,000 to go from a fundraising standpoint. So 1.9 total. When you walk up to that new building, there will be 9 palm trees representing the 9 victims from that tragedy. And as I tell people all the time, this is not a Charleston Southern project or a Charleston project. This is an international project when it comes to race relations, diversity in America, and those type of things that we believe as an institution are important values to live by. And so I would just tell you from a community standpoint that if you're interested in knowing more and learning more about it, to just simply reach out to the school, reach out to myself, and I'll be glad to share the story and get you involved in it.
This is something that you hope is going to attract people who aren't just coming to the campus for a baseball game, but to look at a memorial to what happened on that tragic day.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach Stuart Lake, our previous baseball coach, who's now at the University of South Carolina, made a profound statement when we were kind of finishing up the drawings and plans and kind of beginning some of the fundraising aspect. He said, we'll be breaking ground on this facility when that young man is standing trial. And so what he meant by that was basically saying we're making something great out of a tragedy, because she's going to live on, her story's going to live on through that building, through Chris Singleton and what he said on that mound, that love is always stronger than hate. And it's exemplified in that. And we want to take her message out into the community as best we can. And we feel like through brick and mortar is a way to do that.
When will it be ready?
It's going to be ready. We're hoping by November, December completion. And we will have a building dedication in February where we have the opportunity to invite all the people back that have contributed, as well as people in the community that are familiar with the story. I was in Atlanta about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm taking a tour of Turner Field, and I get to, not Turner Field, I'm sorry, SunTrust Park. And I get to talking to the lady giving the tour, and I kind of tell her what I'm doing and who I am. And she echoes Chris's words on that mound the day before the day of the tragedy. So I say all that to say that the story is still alive.
Hang on one second. We'll come back and let you finish up. We'll be right back.
747 here on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Will Pelagic in our Columbia Main Street studios. Phil, I know we wanted to finish up with some of the folks down there at Charleston Southern with some of the comments we were making about the great new building and facility that's going up down there.
Indeed, indeed. We've had a great afternoon here at Charleston Southern. A little football, a little basketball, a little baseball, talking about the construction of a beautiful new complex. And I was going to let Assistant AD for Development Tyler Davis just finish his story about the Singleton complex.
Yeah, as I was saying, I was in Atlanta a few weeks ago and took a tour of the new SunTrust Park. And the lady that was giving the tour, we kind of got to know each other, and she echoed the words that Chris said, love is always stronger than hate. Here we are 2.5 years after the tragedy. And so all I was simply going to say is that the message is still relevant, and Sharonda's life is still relevant. And then obviously what we're doing today in constructing that new building is going to continue to tell her story in the years to come.
That's fantastic. Thanks to you for coming over. Thanks to Associate Head Basketball Coach Ahmad Smith.
Appreciate it.
Coach,
Thank
good
you.
luck to you guys
Appreciate it.
in the upcoming season. It'll be here before we know it.
Oh,
What,
no doubt.
October or something another, we start practicing
Yeah,
basketball.
we're starting them next week with two hours a week. So,
Good luck. Tell Coach Raider Ball we said hello. Sorry we missed him.
Yes, sir.
But you did a fantastic job. You're much better than B.J. Mackey in this role.
Hey, no doubt.
And you're
No
much
doubt.
better looking than B.J.,
Hey,
if I
no
may
doubt.
say so.
No doubt about it.
question about that, huh? All right. Thank you very much, guys. And Will, you've got a special guest.
We do, and interestingly enough, as we usually do, we like to bring you guests courtesy of the folks at the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. And right now, we are pleased to be joined on Sports Talk by Becky Humphreys, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the National Wild Turkey Federation. And Becky, I understand the Wild Turkey Federation has a brand new partnership with the Department of Natural Resources. Tell us a little bit about that.
We have a great partnership. We partner on not only mentoring and learn to hunt activities, but we partner on a shooting range in Edgefield, South Carolina. So we love to get people in the outdoors. We love to teach them about conservation and the shooting sports, and we love to get them engaged in hunting and enjoying the outdoors.
What's your biggest message to folks out there who are thinking about hunting turkeys this season?
Well, it's a great time to go out and enjoy the season. It's a great activity that you can enjoy with your family, with your friends. It provides great health benefits, and it provides some pretty tasty food if you're successful.
As far as what we can tell the folks about this new partnership, what's the biggest thing that we need to know, not only from your standpoint, but not only safety tips, but also some of the different regulations that folks will be looking for this year?
Well, people can go to the website and learn regulations, but the key is you need to be safe in the outdoors, and just like you do in the indoors. But the bottom line is, with people enjoy the outdoors, it's about making sure you know your limit, making sure you know the people that you're with and enjoying in the outdoors, both in terms of their physical capabilities and their gun handling capabilities. And then you take proper precautions. Learn how to fire a gun properly, learn how you can safely hunt with other individuals. But hunting is one of the safer sports. We look at accident rates, it's much higher for a number of activities, including cheerleading and football and a lot of the team sports that kids participate in.
What is the future of the Wild Turkey Federation, not only here in the state, but nationwide?
Well, we have a very strong future. The Turkey Federation was started in 1973, and it was started to restore the wild turkey all across the United States. We have accomplished that along with our partners like the South Carolina DNR and other DNRs across the country. But now we work on maintaining that population through healthy habitat management and also creating the next generation of conservationists and outdoor users and hunters.
As far as the season goes, what can you tell us about, when folks will be able to get themselves out there and when we can expect some of that to start?
Well, the important part is people need to be aware that most places, the spring season is the season for turkey hunting. Some states have hunting in the fall months, but it's typically to reduce population. We don't have many of those fall seasons in the southeastern United States. So you can go online, you can take a look at when those seasons start, plan for it now, and we can help you get ready with a Learn to Hunt program.
And how can folks find out more about you and your federation and also the different laws state to state?
They can go to nwtf NWTF.org. That's NWTF for National Wild Turkey Federation.org. And on there, it'll have all our Learn to Hunt events. They can also go to the website for their particular state agency, like South Carolina DNR. And on those, they'll be able to find all their hunting regulations.
Becky Humphreys, National Wild Turkey Federation, thank you so much, and we look to continue the relationship and also the partnership that you all have with our state.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Becky Humphreys joining us here on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. 7:53 on Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Will Polancic, Phil Kornblut, and Jared Rogers-Martin. Yesterday, we found out that Kelly Bryant is the starting quarterback, or 2 days ago, we found out that Kelly Bryant is the brand new starting quarterback of the Clemson Tigers, the junior coming in here, and the man who had at least the most collegiate experience going in. We heard from the Clemson players for the first time since finding out about that brand new news. One of them, returning receiver Deon Cain.
There's really no difference. I mean, every quarterback has a different arm, but just how they move the ball, everything. All the quarterbacks are really the same. But now that we have a for sure starter, I always been working with all our quarterbacks at the end of the day. I don't really have a favorite on one because at the end of the day, you just never know what happens. So I just try to stay consistent. And while we were in practice, me and Kelly had already had that chemistry and just about everything. So now I think I'm actually glad he's here. So we just kind of just show that on the field.
Is there like a part of the offense that you think has shown particular improvement since the beginning of the camp?
Probably our run game. Our run game has improved tremendously. Our O-line we got a lot of good depth at O-line. We got a lot of good depth at running back. And you can just see just the playmakers there just making plays throughout camp. And I've seen a lot of explosive plays out of us through camp and our O-line.
How nice is it to be able to turn the page, after the grind of camp and be able to look towards an actual opponent and game plan for them?
And I'm just glad it's over. Camp was fun. Like I said, I learned a lot from there just for myself and for our teammates. And now that it's really time to put on staff and really meaning this time, not going against our teammates and now we're going against an actual opponent. It's going to feel great now.
Plus some new device out there that Coach Dye was working with y'all with the receivers, simulating getting hit before and after a catch. Like, how much does that help you, just compared to camp last year?
Really just prepare me more for a game because at the end of the time, somebody's always going to be a defender right there. So, and while we out here, Coach Dye and all them other GAs and just try to help us get more prepared for the games and game-like situations when we catching the ball, I always know to catch and tuck it or always know you got some type of contact as soon as you catch the ball. So really that just give us in the mindset and have us remember saying that, let's get in the game.
Deon Cain, wide receiver of the Clemson Tigers, and we talk a lot, Corn, about the South Carolina cupboard as far as the offense goes, but there's certainly a full cupboard of offensive options that Kelly Bryant will have for the Tigers this year.
Yeah, it's ridiculous the talent he has to work with at wide receiver. It's a deep group there and very talented. The question is, is Bryant going to be good enough as a passer to get the ball to these guys? And that's what I can't wait to see. Even against Kent State, let's see how sharp he is throwing the ball against that defense. And then more importantly, how sharp is he going to be the next week against Auburn? Let me mention a couple of things here. Coach Will Muschamp having his first weekly radio show tonight. He's put out a couple of pieces of information following the tweets here of David Cloninger, the Post and Courier. It says Muschamp said that there still is a battle at left tackle and at kicker. Stephen Montag back for NC State, but he is questionable. Hopes to get him back for NC State. Questionable at the current time. Tavin Jackson is going to miss the first 2 games with a hamstring, so that's not good. It's cutting into that depth in the secondary. The Smiths, the receivers, and Chad Terrell, all 3 will play. Gamecocks will wear their road uniforms against NC State. And this note, too, they had that fight at the end of the Somerville-Spartanburg game. 8 Somerville players suspended as a result of that situation. You haven't seen the result from Spartan High, but that's what's coming out of Somerville.
We'll chat at you tomorrow on Sports Talk. For Corn, J.R. Mart, myself, Willie P. Thanks for listening.